is going on, man? So I'm here with my man AK, and this is our segment for the Sports is My Love Language podcast. And today we started a brand new segment called the 10 Count. Why did we start this? Well, I'm going to introduce AK. He's an avid boxing fan. He's done some amateur boxing in the past where he's dabbled. I'm a super fan of boxing, probably like one of my top two favorite sports. I absolutely love it. So we were chatting behind the scenes, and there's definitely a mutual respect on his opinion, my opinion. So we decided, hey, you know what? Let's get together and let's talk about these big upcoming fights. We're not going to deep dive into the undercards. That's not what this is. We're definitely going to grab the main events, and we're just going to give our opinion, talk about them. He's going to give a little more of the fighter side of it. I'll give a little more about what I see as a fan, and what I witness and what I look for. And I think it's really exciting. So first off and foremost, let me welcome my man AK. What's going on, AK?
How you doing, Mike? Thanks for having me. Of course, pleasure to be here.
This is us, man. I hope we get together regularly to do these fights. It's very rare that I find somebody that I could go back and forth with. On the I don't want to call it technical, because for me, technical, I'd have to be in the ring fighting. That's not what I do. But I look at it more like somebody that sees what I see, or somebody that sees something that I don't see, something that misses. But we got a big fight this weekend, man.
Yes, we do.
It's so funny because if you would have told me about this fight a couple of months ago, I would have been like, for what? For what? We saw everything we needed to see in the first fight. Is this really necessary? But then I started seeing some things behind the scenes, right? And then you start falling into the whole what do you call it?
Promotion trap?
Yeah, the promotional trap. And you start believing a little bit of the hype, So I was like, am I the only one? And then when you mentioned it, I was like, you know what? Let's talk about it. So first and foremost, what are your thoughts? Wilder Fury 3.
It's funny because you mentioned the promotional trap, right? Like they do this in boxing and obviously probably in all sports, but essentially we've seen fights that we know were lopsided, but you could watch it 24/7 and think the guy actually has a chance, right? Now, I say that saying that boxing is unique. You always have a chance because you can be down on scorecards and you can knock somebody out, game over. Unfortunately, there's the other part of it too, which is hard to quantify boxing in many ways. You can have three licensed judges and they can have, we've seen all types of different results. One judge has X fighter by 6 and the other by 4. So boxing is strange that way. Like you're never really out of it. There's never a situation where you're down 30 points with half of a quarter left or something like that, and you kind of just, all right, let me hold on for the next one. It's also a different sport from an adrenaline perspective, I believe, because you're putting your life on the line out there, and that's not a knock to any of the other major sports, football, hockey specifically, where you got big guys, strong guys going at fast velocities. But I think I'll tell you, why did I even start boxing, right? So I was young. And the one thing that had started to appeal to me was that in the boxing ring, I played organized sports from as long as I could walk. And the one difference was in the boxing ring, it was on you, and it was on you completely. There was no, my team isn't into it. My teammates, some of them are working. Like you had to bear that responsibility, and there was no hiding. You weren't hiding in a matchup. You weren't hiding on a certain area of the field or court. And so that really appealed to me. First trainer I ever went to in Glassboro, New Jersey. I'm going to give a shout out to Glassboro, New Jersey. The gym's not there anymore, but Leroy Harris. So I was in 10th grade, and first question he said is, you got beat up today at school? I said, no, I didn't get beat up today at school. Why are you here? I said, I want to learn. This sport fascinates me. I want to learn it. He was interesting. He didn't let me learn anything until I went there and trained for 2 months. He said, I'm going to show you a jab and a cross basically after 2 or 3 weeks, but I want to see that you're willing to come do the workout, which is actually pretty fantastic because in a lot of boxing gyms, they want to make the money and they'll start training you immediately. And, they're not as interested in making sure you're committed. But yeah, so I did some boxing then. And then also after sophomore year of college, I started again, did some fights and I trained under Bristol Jenkins over in South Jersey as well. well, what do I think about this fight? I think taking away from all the hype and things like that, this is to me a real fight. Now watching the second fight, I think it's easy to say, oh, this guy's too much for Wilder because he's too big, he's too strong, he's going to lean on him, he's going to take the fight to him, make Wilder fight off that back foot. All the things that Wilder has not been comfortable doing. We're talking about a guy who has a 98% knockout percentage in title fights. I mean, the power on Wilder is arguably as good as we've ever seen. So when somebody's used to that, when you start bringing like Fury can't play the southpaw card. They're both orthodox fighters, right? They're both used to it. They're both used to fighting big guys. There's a lot that goes into that. But yeah, I'd say the main thing, first of all, is Tyson wants to continue doing what he was doing and really bring the fight to Wilder and wear him down. While on the other side, I'd love to get your perspective from what you've heard about the variance in training. We all know there's a new trainer. There's a new trainer who actually is a young trainer, not a ton of experience, fought Wilder in the ring. But what do you think about how this could go and what effect, if any, the new training will have on kind of going forward?
Yeah. So I'm just going to give you a little bit on the fight first because it's one of those things that what you just said is what is kind of like playing with my head. It's kind of like, do you believe what you see? Or do you believe what they're telling you? And now all of a sudden, for some reason, as it gets closer to the fight, I'm believing what I'm hearing, kind of like, oh, okay. See, fight number one, it was exactly what we thought it was. I never looked at Deontay Wilder as a technical boxer. What I said was he has that right hand from hell. Like, he hits you. I saw Teddy Atlas called it like the hardest single punch in the history of boxing. That's what he called it. And that guy knows his stuff. So I got to give it up to that, He said it's the single. It's not, he's not Foreman where he can hit you and knock you. He's not with two hands or Tyson that can punch you. He's got that right hand that when he hits you, your ancestors feel it. You know what I mean? So when I saw that first fight, that's how I thought it went. I remember being out with some friends. As a matter of fact, with Petey Pablo, I was out with that night. And we're watching the fight, and I'm like, the beauty of it is Deontay Wilder could lose 11 rounds and 58 seconds. All he needs is that 1 second, right? Fight number two now comes around. And I'm like, well, I'm probably going to see more of the same. I heard Fury had gained some weight. Now, when I heard that, I didn't attribute it so much to strategy as I did to he's got mental health issues, man. Is the example of he got heavy because he got complacent? But no, it was the opposite. He got in that ring and he realized he executed a plan that basically exploited what everybody in the world knew. Deontay can't fight off his back foot. As soon as you bully the bully and you put that pressure on him and you make his punch catch you early, if it catches you full extent, you're out. But he was catching him still cocked, trying to hit him with the right and everything, and he couldn't set up that 1-2. You saw him. You saw slowly but surely Fury take over, right? When I was done with that fight, I was like, I don't ever want to see that again. And I was so mad at Deontay Wilder for getting rid of Mark Breland. I was so upset with him. Like, this guy saved your life, bro.
Yeah.
Now, that's me not being a fighter. Now, as a non-fighter, I've said, you know what, man, you're a piece of work, bro. That guy saved your life. But then if I step into his shoes just for a minute, which I can't step into, but for a minute, his psyche, and I say to myself, this guy is a god of war. He is a warrior. He'd rather die on his shield. So I see that side of it. I do. For my sane side, my brain says, no, I'm glad it was stopped. But like, that's why I'm not a fighter. That side of it says, no. I'd rather drop me, kill me. I knew what I was signing up for, So following that fight, then you got, for a little while there, I saw Wilder being a little petty. Oh, he's cheating and putting out videos and this and that. And I'm like, is this guy a sore loser? Is he have to convince himself? And he pushed so hard. Now, the last part of it is I saw him doing, like I said, those hype shows, like I don't know if it's PBC, I forget what the 24-hour type thing where they follow him. And I start to see that he's training. he actually knocked the guy out. The guy he's training with, he knocked him out a couple years ago.
Yep.
And I'm training with him again, and I see it, and I see some of the things he's working on, which were the big critiques on his fighting style. I want to know your thoughts on what you see right after I hit you with this one. Here's the problem for me. The problem for me is he doesn't have enough time. He doesn't have enough time. I used to say this, right? So I used to run, I used to run a group, not a group home, but a adolescent rehab in New Jersey. And kids would come to me for 6 months, right? And the changes, we had to really look and examine where the victories were. And when people would ask me, I'd be like, there's no way in hell I could fix 17, 18 years worth of damage in 6 months. It's not happening. But what I can do is give them a couple of tools to hopefully be successful. And then when you examine who went out there, you saw the guys that used the tools, they were successful. The ones that couldn't get a grasp of them, they weren't, right? And I look at, I refer back to Deontay Wilder, and I say to myself, is this camp enough to embed in him what he needs to do to contradict a lifetime, because he started late in boxing, but a lifetime of what he's been used to doing? And I'm like, I don't know. Even if what they're teaching him is perfect game plan to win this fight, I think his biggest enemy is time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that first of all, fantastic points. Just to answer you directly, it's tough to say. I completely understand. At the same time, the things that he's working on now, it's not like it's something he's never worked on. It's just something that he's not focused on. So there is a foundation there. He's been able to get away with his power for a really long time, but his fight career started somewhere. And wherever it started going through amateur ranks, going through gym versus gym boxing matches, going through sparring other guys in the gym where he wasn't always the biggest and strongest. And you absolutely tend to focus, when you're super successful at something, you tend to focus on what has been good for you.
The Lamar Jackson of boxing.
Yeah, right. Well, you can argue that Tyson had the same perspective. So now what are we going to do now? Is it going to be like Tyson, where after the first loss, your head's not really in it? You know, you're kind of more interested in being a young superstar. You have mental health issues that may, take away your trainer died, all of those other things that went into play. With Wilder, it seems the opposite, right? Like watching that, it seems the opposite.
It seems like he needed to get punched to focus.
Right. It seems like he could be on the other end of that spectrum, right? So that's what's really interesting to me. I think you do have a fair point, 100% though. How much is he going to be able to offset the things that Fury did that he knows he's going to do again? That's the crazy thing. Like, there's not going to be surprises from the other side. Fury's not going to reinvent the wheel on this. So he knows what's coming. He's been working at it. I would hope he's been working at it for more than just the training camp period. I mean, this is something that if he wants it that bad, he's been visualizing in his mind before he went to bed every single night. And that's the one most important thing about being really good at boxing. You have to be able to mentally visualize, put in the work to prepare, have the right type of training regimen and trainers, and then go and execute. All of those things come into play. He's going to go in there with this plan to execute. What do you think is going to happen once?
Exactly.
What do you think is going to happen if it starts to not go his way? Is he going to revert? Is that human nature, or does he have the discipline? I mean, that's where I think he's going to be fairly prepared. Not as much as he could be if it was a year or 2 years, but I definitely think he's going to be fairly prepared. What I'm really eager to see is how he reacts after a good round from Fury, because they're going to be there. He's not going to annihilate Tyson Fury. Nobody ever has. What do you think about that?
So design a game plan, or in your opinion, what is it you see? What is the one route or the routes that you see Deontay Wilder winning?
Angles. And also get into your groove. Do not fight backing up the whole time. Now, again, there's so many things that have come out from, what he was wearing was heavy. He was fatigued. He was this, he was that. He's got to, nobody wants to, he's got to come in sharp. He's got to move on Fury. He's got to, he's at a disadvantage at height. He's at a disadvantage at reach. He's at a disadvantage for a lot of those metrics across the board. I'm not saying that you go fight peekaboo style now and you want to get inside of him the whole time. That's not, Wilder's game either. but you definitely have to learn to use the right angles and change the distance between him and Fury. I mean, I think that's going to determine the fight.
I think, for me, I don't see many routes. I don't see many. I can't sit here and be like, oh, yeah, he could do, no. It goes back to the comment I was making before. If he picks 2 or 3 things that the trainer, let's say 2 things, that the trainer was able to put in his toolbox. One being movement, angles, like you said, movement. Like, Tyson Fury is not somebody, if he gets a stationary Deontay Wilder, we're going to have a repeat of what we saw.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you.
And his jab. In my opinion, it's his jab and move. Jab, move to set up the right hand. Jab, move, set up the right hand. He before it was all jab, set up the right hand, jab, set up the right hand. It's never move. And from everything I've been watching, that's where they've kind of been working, to move. If he can do that and establish his jab, right, where Fury is not just looking at it as a setup, because that left jab is a bomb. That thing hits. It's hard. If he can establish that, boom, stiff jab, and then land the right, but with movement, obviously he has the knockout power to take anybody in the world's head off. Anybody. You know what I mean? That's the one route. I think he has a knockout puncher's chance to win. Okay? That's when I look at him. I say that. I don't think it's going to go the distance with him if he tries to, you know what I mean? I don't see him winning by decision at all. I only see him winning in the form of a knockout. Only way I see him winning. Now, that leads me to Tyson Fury. What do you think? What do you think are his avenues to win?
You literally execute the same game plan that you did last time and say, I know that even though you've been preparing for this game plan, you've been preparing for basically what Fury did is he put Wilder in the position Wilder put his opponents in his whole career. You know what I mean? So I'm sticking to the script. If I'm Tyson Fury, I'm using my jab, I'm using my angles, I'm using my cross. Obviously, I'm fighting downhill, and I'm also taller. So to some extent, I'm fighting down. I can neutralize some of the bobs. I can neutralize some of the weaves. I can neutralize the space. And I'm just attacking you downhill exactly like I did last time. Show me that you can do something different. Show me that I'm not going to wait. To your point, show me that you could win a decision fight. I don't think Tyson Fury needs to get into the haymaking game right now with Deontay Wilder. But human beings are crazy. He gets hit once really hard. He gets floored. And to his credit, he completely was able to come back from that part one. But, you know, you just don't know. And we don't know where his head's at. He seems like he's in a good spot. They both do. You know, Wilder seems like he is just anxious to get this going. And Fury seems calm and collected. Like, you know, I know what I did last time, and I'm going to do the same to you, little man. Don't worry about it. But, you know, I think Fury, it's so important for him to continue doing what he did the first time to make it work, which is basically saying that I'm coming downhill in every direction, not just downhill in how I'm attacking you, but downhill in how I'm throwing punches, downhill in how I'm wearing you down, all of those things. I think that's what makes the fight for him. And you look to pick Wilder, it's a tough, you know, you're kind of going out on a limb a little bit after what we saw in the first, especially the last 9-10 rounds of their fights. But I think that Wilder obviously could do this. He could do this, especially if he has that, you know, that heart and that ability to kind of learn, you know, reinforce what you were referring to earlier in a relatively shorter period of time.
I think so for me, right? And this is me completely overthinking the situation. You might be 100% right on what you're saying, but I'm completely overthinking. In my mind, if I look at Deontay Wilder and I say, what's his biggest weakness? It's his boxing IQ. And I don't mean compared to your average guy. I mean compared to a guy that's been doing this since 4 years old.
Yeah.
All right. And when I see a guy like Tyson Fury, what I say to myself is, he gets in that ring. How do you get to see his game plan without putting yourself in harm's way? Because he's going to have a game plan designed on what you did last fight. Mm-hmm. That's his game plan. So what do? You come in the first 4 rounds 4 rounds, and you lull him with slightly different style. Just a slightly different, stay at a distance, slightly different style. See him, see what his movement looks like, see where he's at. And what's going to happen is, because of the time he's put in, if he gets frustrated, this is where I believe Tyson Fury dominates this fight. I see Wilder getting frustrated, and reverting back to his usual, to who he is. There's only so long you could fake it. You know what I mean? And once you get frustrated, flustered, hit, is when you go back. You've ever watched anybody, and they try to be on their best behavior, and then the minute somebody says something, somebody with an anger problem, they try to be on their best behavior, and the minute somebody says something, it sets them off. Like, oh, that's the guy that I know. Hey, I remember, that's the one I know. That's what I feel like is going to happen with Wilder. There's only so long. He didn't put in enough time to secure these as being him. Like, if you tell me he was training like this, for like the last 3 fights, and this is him, this is who he is, the movement, the jab, I got you. But for some reason, it just doesn't seem like enough time between the last fight and this fight with that pressure on you. Well, boxing in a bag, boxing sparring, you could probably do it there. But when that light is on you, you know what it reminds me of? Nate Robinson, when he fought that YouTube guy. It looked good when he first came out. Then those lights hit and everything. He felt that first punch, and then all of a sudden that's what it looks like. It's like, you can train all you want, but then you get that first hit. Can you stay consistent? Can you stay steady? Can you be the guy that you're trying to show them you are? If you could do that, I do think he's going to give him a good fight based on heart. Because Deontay Wilder, man, you can say whatever you want. Technically this, whatever that, he's delusional on it, but he has heart. He has heart. And now he's with a trainer that's not going to throw in the thing. So I think a lot of people are saying he's going to be knocked out or he's going to get knocked out again. I genuinely feel like he's going to go the distance, but it's going to be a lopsided decision. You know what I'm saying? It's going to go the distance. All right, what do you call it? Well, that leads us into what's your prediction for the fight? What do you think?
This is so tough, man. And that makes me so excited to see this fight. I think if I can disassociate myself, it's kind of a pick 'em in a way. Obviously, you got to think Fury has the upper hand for sure. But it's so hard to say. I'm gonna go with Fury in 9.
Okay.
I'm skeptical that this is going to reach the distance because, to your point, everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth and then they're going to start swinging, right? These are heavyweights too, where they're just from their body structure, they just tend to be more likely than even the lower class fighters to resort to backyard brawling once they get tagged a few times and things start to go south. And when you do that, as well as I do, now you're not keeping your elbow in as much. You're opening it up. Now you're opening up those counter punches for big counter punches, not jab counter punches. You're opening up
heavy hand.
You're opening up uppercuts. You're opening up all of these things by swinging around as opposed to keeping it tight in. I think that Fury is going to win. I hate to say it. I'm going to be pulling for Wilder. I'll go for the American kid over the English kid every day of the week. But I absolutely think that if I have to make a choice, I'm going Fury. I'm going 9. I think that may be a sweet spot. I would be absolutely stunned if Wilder did not come in here stronger, better able to take some of that pressure. But again, I think at some point they're going to just start throwing punches at each other a little bit more forcefully, and I would have to think that Fury would have an upper hand there for right now.
So funny because I kept saying to myself, unanimous decision, right? And you might have swayed me, man. You might have swayed me into believing when you started talking about heavyweights, the punches, the big fit. Yeah, I have a hard time thinking this is going to go the distance in any direction. But I'm going to go with Tyson Fury. He's just a more technical, polished boxer. I think that his boxing IQ is higher. And I don't think Deontay is going to look bad. But I do think he just he ran out of time. He ran out of time. Would it surprise me if he knocks out Fury? No. But I
Right.
do think he ran out of time. He needed more time under this new technique to polish it for it to be embedded in him. My thing is, he's going to get punched a couple of times. He's going to get angry, or not angry, but he's going to lose a little bit of composure. And his football IQ, his boxing IQ is not high enough to keep him disciplined in what he learned. He's going to revert back to what he's been, and if he does that, Tyson Fury has his number. He has his number. So, and we have to see how Fury walks in the ring. Let's see how seriously he took this. He dominated him so bad the last time, and I'm pretty sure. And I'm not accusing Fury of anything, but I'm pretty sure whatever situation they had with the gloves, Deontay Wilder's team is going to be on it this time. So, if in case there was, it's not happening this time. But other than that, so yeah, that's our predictions. We'll drop them down below. We'll tag them. Anthony Joshua lost, so that mega fight is out the window. But Usyk is a monster. I would like to see Fury Usyk, 2 movement guys. I think that's for a future conversation. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the 10 count with my man Dropping Dimes and my boy AK. Peace.
Appreciate you joining.